And then we get to, I guess, the mid-series finale, which was The Angels Take Manhattan, where the Dr. Amy and Rory go to America in 1938, and the Weeping Angels once again return, but this time, the Weeping Angels apparently ended up taking Amy and Rory with them, and they're no longer with the Doctor again. So, after so many, goodbyes and, welcome backs, they finally wrote something in the show to, make Amy and Rory not be with the Doctor again. So, it took them over 2 years, but they did it. They did it. And then, I'm sorry for not really talking about a lot of the Christmas specials in this era of Doctor Who. I just felt like they were really worth talking about for the most part. But this one, The Snowmen, is very interesting for a variety of reasons. So, obviously, at the start of the story, the Doctor has no companion, since Amy and Rory are victims of the Weeping Angels, I guess. So he actually comes back to Victorian London around Christmas time, and he meets somebody by the name of Clara. And you're probably wondering, wait, Clara looks exactly the same as Oswin. Well, it was revealed at the very end that the Doctor found out that Clara's full name is Clara Oswin Oswald, which he realizes they're the same person, and he ends up realizing, oh crap, she's probably alive somewhere at some other time, and at the end of the story, he leaves the TARDIS to find her, which, before I get into the rest of Series 7, I will talk about another interesting aspect of the story, is the fact that the Great Intelligence returns. Yes, basically the villains that were responsible for the Yetis in both The Abominable Snowmen and The Web of Fear actually return this time. And the Great Intelligence was actually voiced by, what's his name? Yep, I was right, Ian McKellen. Yes, Mr. Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. So, in the next episode, The Bells of St. John, which, funny enough, was another episode that had the Great Intelligence as the bad guys, he ends up meeting a present-day Clara, and she ends up becoming a companion of the Doctor afterwards. So, the Doctor was right in The Snowmen, the fact that there was a version of Clara that is available. So, he got his wish, and yeah, basically for the rest of Series 7, him and Clara do their own travels around space and time. One more episode that I feel like is more interesting to point out, or that I think is best to reference, is Cold War, which brings back the Ice Warriors from Classic Who, another bad guy who hasn't really been seen since the 70s. And this time around, unlike most of the Classic Who villains that have returned in Modern Who, where they were given very different designs, well, outside of the Daleks in most areas, the Ice Warriors remain relatively the same from the outside. It was revealed in this episode that the appearance you see of the Ice Warriors on the outside, that's just their armor. This is what they look like on the inside, which I'm sure nobody in the 60s or 70s thought that the Ice Warriors looked like that. Anyways, ignoring the fact that I'm wearing a different shirt, finishing up Series 7 of Doctor Who. So, 2 more episodes I want to bring up here as a part of this video. The first one being the second to last episode of the season, that being Nightmare in Silver, which was another Cybermen story. However, unlike the previous Cybermen stories we've had in Modern Who, they have actually changed their designs this time around. And these designs were kind of controversial when they first came out, which, I mean, you're gonna get that with new designs of classic monsters. I mean, look at the Paradigm Daleks I talked about earlier with Victory of the Daleks. Personally, for me, I never really had a problem with those Cybermen designs. Actually, they were the very first designs of the Cybermen I ever saw, thanks to the fact that Doctor Who was in LEGO Dimensions, and the design of the Cybermen in that game was based off of their appearance here. Anyways, so the plot of Nightmare in Silver involves basically the Dr. Clara and 2 children that Clara is babysitting. go into this abandoned place where they, of course, encounter the Cybermen. And there are these new versions of the Cybermen called the Cybermites, which were upgraded versions of the Cybermats, which we've seen previously. And they were able to get a piece into the Doctor's head and gave him a split personality, and the split personality was the Cyber Planner, or as the Doctor would call him, Mr. Clever. Not to be confused with the Mr. Men character of the same name, just letting everybody know that. Anyways, during this episode, the Cyber Planner and the Doctor, despite being in the same body, were playing a game of chess over full control of the body. And the Cyber Planner's plans, which makes sense judging by their name, was for the Doctor to basically give up his queen piece in order to save the kids that Clara was babysitting, because at that point in the story they were captured by the Cybermen and were under their control. But of course the Doctor was able to find his way out of it and was able to get that piece out of his mind, so the Doctor's just back to being the Doctor. And interesting thing about Nightmare in Silver, this was the second and last Doctor Who episode that was written by Neil Gaiman, who, as I previously mentioned, wrote the Doctor's wife in the previous season. And then the last episode of Series 7, which was The Name of the Doctor, involved the third appearance of the Great Intelligence coming in. And basically throughout the episode, and just in general throughout like the second half of Series 7, they were trying to figure out like the Doctor's real name. And not only was the Great Intelligence after him, the Silence were also in collaboration with the Great Intelligence over this, and they were, of course, as almost all Doctor Who villains were eventually stopped. And then you may think that's about it for the Matt Smith era in terms of that, but nope, we still have two more specials to cover. And this first one in particular was made in honor of the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who back in 2013, which, funny enough, premiered exactly 50 years after the first episode came out on November 23rd of 2013. That being Day of the Doctor, and this one involved the 11th Doctor working alongside the 10th Doctor played by David Tennant. So outside of the 11th and 10th Doctor working alongside one another, this episode also introduced a previously unknown version of the Doctor that actually was around during the Time War, which was teased throughout Modern Who up until this point. And this Doctor was basically in between the 8th and 9th incarnations. And he's referred to as the War Doctor. I don't know if I've ever brought that up yet. And he was played by the late John Hurt. So one portion of the Day of the Doctor plot involved the return of another classic Who villain, that being the Zygons, who previously only appeared in Terror of the Zygons from the 4th Doctor era. And they were basically trying to cause another invasion, and also those three Doctors were able to have peace between the Zygons and the humans, at least temporarily, but we'll get into that in another episode. And then after the events of this episode, the War Doctor and the 10th Doctor, of course, returned to their previous timelines, and then the War Doctor, we see him briefly start to regenerate into what would eventually become the 9th Doctor. And funny enough, at the end of the episode, the 11th Doctor was actually told by a character by the name of the Curator about his mission to find Gallifrey, which basically throughout Modern Who, it's been teased that Gallifrey is destroyed, but apparently not so much. So the Doctor's next plan is to try to find Gallifrey. And the Curator, if that appearance doesn't ring a bell, was played by Tom Baker. Yes, his first time on Doctor Who in a very, very long time. Not necessarily as the 4th Doctor, but as a possible incarnation of the Doctor sometime in the future. Funny thing about the Curator, they never really specified, like, what he's supposed to be. I mean, we kind of assume that he's a Time Lord, judging from the fact that he mentions Gallifrey and all that. But other than that, like, the Curator's origins are very unknown, and kind of glad they left it open to fan speculation. And then his final episode, which premiered on Christmas Day of 2013, which is titled Time of the Doctor, where the Doctor in the story spends almost an eternity protecting this planet by the name of Trenzalore, from alien invasions. And then because the Doctor was protected the planet for so long, he visually started appearing older and was, of course, out of regeneration cycles. And Clara was able to convince the Time Lords to give the Doctor a new regeneration cycle, and the Doctor finally begins to regenerate and destroying basically the Daleks, who are one of the many aliens trying to take control of Trenzalore. And then the episode ends with the Clara... Did I say the Clara? What the hell? It ends with Clara witnessing the Doctor going from the 11th Doctor into the 12th Doctor, which of course we will talk about the 12th Doctor next season. And yeah, that was really all the Matt Smith era Doctor Who in a nutshell. Sorry if I glossed over a couple of things in this episode. Like, for example, in some of the episodes of the show, especially in Series 7, there was a trio of characters, which were named, I believe it was Jenny... What was the name of the Silurian woman? I think it was like... No, Madame Vastra, that's her name. Don't worry, I don't need to put it up on there. Madame Vastra and Jenny, which were a Silurian and human couple. And this is shocking to probably a lot of people back then, but they were actually both women. This is the first, lesbian couple in Doctor Who. And it was between a Silurian and a human, nonetheless. And they also had a butler who was a Centauran by the name of Strax, and he was basically there for comic relief and kind of the third member of their group. And they had a couple crossovers with the 11th Doctor, helping him out in his various adventures. Like, they first appeared in the mid-Series 6 finale, A Good Man Goes to War, and then they appeared a few times in Series 7, most notably The Snowmen, The Crimson Horror, Name of the Doctor, and yeah, they were an interesting group of characters. Like I said, sorry for not bringing them up in my overall discussions. Part of me didn't think they were worth, covering all that much, since, I mean, as cool characters as they are, they would eventually be phased out, not too long after Matt Smith's era ended, which I'll bring up when I talk about Peter Capaldi. But overall, this was a fun era of the show. I wouldn't say it was as good as David Tennant's and Christopher Eccleston. I would say 11th Doctor's era was definitely, probably a step down from both of those eras. Especially, Series 6 and 7. I feel like those seasons definitely had some stinkers. Like Series 6, for example, I didn't care at all about Let's Kill Hitler. And then Series 7, especially the first half, had a few duds, Power of 3 wasn't really that memorable. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship was just kind of out there. Yeah, there was literally an episode where they had dinosaurs on a spaceship. Asylum of the Daleks didn't really make much sense as a concept, like I've already mentioned. I feel like if the Daleks were not, what a typical Dalek should be. You'd think the rest of the Daleks would have just exterminated them, but I guess not. But there are some highlights. A lot of the Series 5 episodes are pretty good. I definitely liked the second half of Series 7 with the 11th Doctor and Clara. I thought a lot of those episodes were really good. Definitely made up for the first half of Series 7, in my opinion. And the two 2013 specials were really nice, especially Day of the Doctor, seeing Matt Smith and David Tennant going up against one another. Well, not going up against one another. I mean, obviously, as Doctors do, they bicker about certain things, but, I mean, they're on the same side at the end of the day. Also, one other thing I forgot to point out about the Matt Smith era, that people are probably thinking, are you really going to point this out? I think it's funny to point out, but I noticed that this era had, a lot more, adult jokes in some episodes than before. I wonder if a part of that had to do with the fact that Stephen Moffat's, being the showrunner now, I think kind of made a lot of these jokes, more common in Doctor Who. I think some notable examples, from what I remember, was in the Angel two-parter from Series 5, where River Song says to the Doctor, "Hey, Doctor, can you sonic me? I'm trying to get a signal here." And then the Doctor uses a sonic screwdriver, and then River was able to get a signal. And then Amy goes up to the Doctor, and she's like, "Oh, Doctor, you sonicked her." There's a bunch of them. There was a compilation video at one point on YouTube about all the adult jokes in Modern Who. I'll have to find that at some point, maybe link it in the description below if I can find it. But yeah, Matt Smith's era, pretty fun overall. Definitely, I would say the last, like, good era of Doctor Who at this point. At least that I've seen in its entirety. I'm definitely going to have a bit more complaints about the next era, but we'll save that for next time. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed my overview of the Matt Smith era, and if you've watched this era of the show, let me know in the comments your thoughts about it. Anyways, if you liked this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. That's about it. This is Tyler from the Character Workshop, signing out.